lounges where, in front of Kamal lounges where the chess pieces are. I'm sure you've noticed.
Honorable Attorney General of Fiji, Minister for Economy, Civil Service and Communications, Messiah Said Kayum, Honorable Government Ministers present here, Honorable Speaker of the Parliament, sorry, I just saw you now, Honorable Members of Parliament, Honorable President Court of Appeal and Resident Justice of Appeal, Honorable Judges, Your Excellencies, Members of the Diplomatic Corps, Mr. Solicitor, Chief Magistrate, Magistrates, Permanent Secretaries, Commissioners and Directors, Brigadier General Muhammad Aziz, invited guests, fellow speakers and commentators, chairperson and members of the organizing committee. Good morning to you all. I'm very grateful to be invited to be present here this morning and to open the 21st Attorney General's Conference. I wish to thank the organizing committee led by Ms. Lian Borasi and Ms. Mary Mothofanga for their hard work and commitment in organizing this conference. And I also thank Mr. Solicitor for his kind welcome address and introduction. Thank you. Attorney General's Conference, as we have seen, has grown significantly over the last 21 years. 21 years, both in terms of number of attendees and the nature of topics covered during this conference. In terms of numbers, I'm told the first conference had about 50 attendees, and which has now increased to approximately 478. That's a huge increase. It is interesting and encouraging to note attendance by private legal practitioners has also increased. This is a sign of healthy legal system that we have in place. Irrespective of whether you are in private practice or public practice, you all have a duty to treat each other with courtesy and respect. I'm sure that over the next 2 days, you'll build new friendships and be able to exchange views on areas of concern. No doubt, areas covered and dealt with, as you heard Solicitor General, dealt with during the AG's conference, affect our work as judicial officers, legal practitioners, and the public at large. And this could be the reason for such a large turnout. I note that this conference has able and qualified members of panel from various sectors of our community to make presentations and clarify issues relating to various areas of practice. The presentations range from property opportunities, alternate dispute resolution, right to health, right to privacy, e-filing, and the need for weed, legal medicinal marijuana. I sincerely hope that by the end of this conference, you'll have a better understanding of topics covered. I'm sure you'll have an opportunity to seek clarification on any issues that you might have any doubt, and the able and qualified panel members will be able to assist you in this regard. This title is a new concept for Fiji, as we all know, and the public needs to be made aware of the law and regulations dealing with those titles. At the moment, we have Unit Titles Act 985, which deals with issues of unit titles over lots subject to subdivision with common interest. I notice that you are very experienced and qualified panel to address you on this topic. I'm glad to say on mediation that all mediators trained by the Judicial Department, we train mediators too, have been trained to mediate Singapore style. We have established Fiji Mediation Center with 70 qualified mediators who are also trained by none other than our good friend Mr. George Lim, who you will hear after tomorrow's lunch, and he's present here this morning. On right to health, Section 38 of our Constitution guarantees right to health, which is supplemented by provisions in respect to right to accessible and adequate housing and sanitation, right to adequate food and water, and the right to clean and healthy environment. That all supplements right to health. I noticed that the panel on this is joined by Dennis Perez, United Nations Special Rapporteur on the right to health. Welcome to Fiji. Section 24 of our Constitution guarantees persons' right to personal privacy, which includes confidentiality of personal information, their communication, and respect for their private and family life. We are all aware the way technology is advancing. This rapid advancement, in some way or the other, has substantial effect on the right to personal privacy. Social media such as Facebook, no doubt, can be used by people to obtain your personal information, and how many times it has been used to foretell your future or your picture, and information has been used to create fake profiles, which sometimes is quite degrading. We now have Online Safety Act 2018 to protect individuals from harm through posting of electronic communication or posting of intimate visual recording of an individual. I'm sure the panel appointed for subject, being Professor of Law, Privacy Commissioner, Barrister, and Chief Marketing Officer, Vodafone, will address the issue and be able to deal with any clarification you might have on this topic. On e-filing, I want to say the Digital Department is in the process of implementing e-filing of court documents as part of Access to Justice program is sponsored by European Union and managed by UNDP. I wish to take something to thank EU and UNDP for their assistance and cooperation to date in this regard. I will talk about this more during tomorrow's session with my fellow panel members. Need for Weed. Good short movie, which ends well with Clive, Aaron, and Trip enjoying a glass of beer. However, I'm sure the presentation that will be made by very qualified panel members will be much more interesting and thought-provoking. You may well be aware that consumption of marijuana for health issues have been legalized in some countries with stringent regulations. I will leave to the able panel members to address you on this aspect before the close of the conference. I wish to share something that is now being discussed in relation to human rights, a new concept, new right. Recently, I read an article where it is stated that free internet access should now be considered a basic human right. The article mentioned that researchers from University of Birmingham pointed out that many people without internet access, predominantly in developing countries, don't have an opportunity to influence global leaders in their decision-making process. The article quoted Martin Reckless, global ethics lecturer at University of Birmingham, statement that internet is no luxury, but instead of a moral human right, and everyone should have unmonitored and uncensored access to this global medium, provided free of charge for those unable to afford it. I'm very much aware that our government has provided free Wi-Fi to enable public to have access to internet in certain areas of various cities, towns, and districts. And I thank the government for that. I'm sure the idea generated by the researchers from University of Birmingham will definitely create more thought and discussions internationally. As said earlier, the topics for this conference are quite relevant to the legal system and thought-provoking. Panel members would, of course, open up issues for discussion over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine during the next 2 days. I once again thank the Honorable Attorney General of Fiji, the Solicitor General, and the organizing team for the invitation and for organizing this conference. I wish the 21st Attorney General's Conference all the success. With these words, I have much pleasure in declaring 21st Attorney General's Conference open. Thank you all for listening.
the back.
On your right, policy.
All right. Thank you.